92 wildfires are now burning in Alberta. 27 of those are out of control. And this morning, there are air quality advisories in place from BC all the way to Manitoba. Some of the worst fire damage has been on the Sturgeon Lake and Little Red River Cree Nations, where dozens of homes have now been destroyed. First Nations are uniquely impacted by wildfires, and now many are looking to the past for a future solution. And to learn more about the Indigenous practice of cultural burning or firekeeping, we're joined this morning by Dr. William Nikolakis, an assistant professor with Indigenous Land and Natural Resources Governance at UBC. Good morning.
Good morning, Anne-Marie. How are you? I'm
doing well. You are the executive director of the Gathering Voices Society. They're working with 2 BC First Nations trying to revitalize the traditional fire management. Can you explain for our audience what firekeeping or cultural burning is?
Yeah, so it's bringing the right fire at the right place at the right time. So cool burn fires in the off season, so early spring and late fall, when you don't have the extreme and hot weather that you do in summer. That allows you to burn off fuels and to mitigate fire risk later in the season.
You're talking about extra debris and things like that on top of the soil.
That's right. That's right.
People here would be more familiar with a prescribed burn. How is it different than a cultural burn?
Well, you don't burn everything. It's a patchy burn. You leave patches of vegetation, berries and other plants and vegetation on the landscape. So you don't burn everything as you do with a prescribed burn, where you're using drip torches and leaf blowers.
A recent report by Health Canada lays out the ways in which First Nations are uniquely impacted by a worsening fire season, including water and food security, damage to homes and buildings, we're seeing that now, and an increase in injuries and deaths. So what are some barriers to more First Nations learning or relearning these practices of firekeeping?
Yeah, there's a number of issues in terms of land tenure and the red tape that's required to actually put fire to the land, and the resources and confidence to actually start putting fire back to the landscape, and with all the red tape you have in the landscape. So there's a number of barriers that need to be addressed. So it's going to be a long-term proposition, bringing more fire back to the land through Indigenous fire techniques.
What do you think the hesitancy is?
I think that it's you're bringing fire, which is it's a dangerous proposition onto the land base. So you have to crawl before you can start running. And that's a key aspect of what we're doing with our program in central British Columbia is starting small and working our way up. And our program's grown 80-fold over the last 5 years in bringing fire to the land. So it's about using extreme caution, precautionary measures to ensure that fire is safe, brought safely back onto the land.
There are countries who have allowed this practice to return. They have experienced success. How could this practice protect forests from future wildfires, like what we're seeing now?
Well, yeah, it's about ensuring that you remove all the vegetation, the ladder fuels and things that have grown into the forest. We've got some serious degraded forests across much of Canada. We can't keep kicking the can down the road. We have to start stewarding these land bases so that this situation doesn't worsen. We have to put more money and resources into training people, bringing adequate equipment, security measures in to ensure that these fires that we apply to the land base don't escape, and we can learn from these using monitoring and evaluation, best available science to examine what we're doing and evaluate what we're doing.
It is an ancient practice and a skill. Why do you think that it disappeared?
Well, there's been a lot of factors, residential schools, bringing people off the land base, legal issues. So there's been a number of barriers to these practices.
William Nikolakis, I want to thank you for joining us this morning. Fascinating conversation. I learned a lot.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.